Um, then I came to India in 1985 for the first time, and I felt I'm coming home. It was a very interesting experience, and somehow I stayed back, and last 20 years I stay most of the time in India, and it's like became my home now. So today I would like to share a bit what we are from Brahma Kumari's side are doing in the area of renewable energy and also in the area of climate change, and how that is all connected to our consciousness and awareness, and what it all has to do with yoga and meditation. In the first moment, the connection might not be visible, but I will walk you through the connections and explain why we from Brahma Kumaris are very active since the last 20 years in the field of renewable energies, and why we are active also at the climate change conferences. Actually, our team just had a meeting, and we're preparing for Paris, for the climate conference there. And there will be 10 delegates from foreign, and about 15 brothers and sisters from France. And jointly, we're trying to save Mother Earth. So I have a presentation, which I also show some of that in Paris probably. And first I talk a little bit what's going on in the world. Where are we actually? Because sometimes it's a little bit confusion. What is climate change? What is actually going on? And sometimes people are also quite worried about the situation, because in the press a lot of facts are shown and a lot of information is coming to us, and sometimes it's not easy for us to sort through all that information and get an idea what is actually going on and how serious is actually climate change. In the second part I show what we're doing at the Brahma Kumaris, and that's quite a lot. And in the third part I'm showing the connection to meditation and yoga, and that's why you're all here for the Peace of Mind retreat. And I a little bit refer how a peaceful mind can create a better world. So let us start a little bit and let's go straight through. And you see in this picture, you cannot see much because this is a picture of New Delhi in December 2014, and I went there and I asked, oh, it is very foggy today, and I went to the German embassy and they said that is not fog, that is smog. And at that day, New Delhi broke the world record in air pollution. We had double the air pollution than in Beijing in China. And in India, the Indian government made no announcement, the newspaper made no announcement, there was no mentioning in any radio. And then it was picked up by the New York Times 3 days later, and by the German magazine Spiegel also 3 days later. And then in India, the newspapers, they said, oh, very good. India broke the world record in air pollution. Well, yes, it is a bit funny, but the sad news is that if you live in a city like New Delhi, your average life expectancy is reduced 3 to 5 years. That's the fact, and 50% of the people in Delhi, they suffer from bronchitis or respiratory diseases. It's quite sad. And out of 20 of the most polluted cities in the world, 12 are from India. So that's the price we pay for industrial development and trying to save the money and not thinking about Mother Nature. So, and the main reason why we have this pollution is, beside we're all using cars and traveling around, is we produce 70 to 80% of the world power is being produced by thermal-based power stations. And we use coal. And coal creates carbon emissions. And those carbon emissions, they all create that climate effect and so on. And even the power here in the hall comes to some extent from such dirty power, as we call it, and to some extent it comes from solar power. Like my microphone and the beamer is on renewable energies, but the light here is not on renewable energies. So, and you can see here a very interesting graph, which is a very latest graph, which is from the NOAA from 2015. And you can see quite clearly, since the 1950s, the temperature has gone up, and we are now approximately at 1 degree increased temperature since the 50s. And you all might have heard that we are all trying to make efforts now at the climate conference in Paris to find an agreement to reduce the temperature rise below 2 degrees. And science tells us if the temperature rises more than 2 degrees, it will be very difficult for humanity to manage the bad effects of climate change. So you can see the trend is quite clear. And the bad news is this will continue for quite some time. India just announced that for the next 20 years they will use more coal for power generation. China also announced they will use more coal for power generation. And if you take all the promises of the countries which have been published recently for the climate conference in Paris together, we will reach 3 degrees temperature rise. That does not sound much, but the effects are quite serious for the future of humanity. And either we create deserts, which is happening already, and probably in all your home countries where you come from all over the world, you already notice some change in climate patterns. Either it becomes more cold, it becomes more hot, or suddenly you have very heavy rains, or you have extended periods of droughts. And for example, here in India, in Mount Abu, for a long time in the rainy season, we had no rain at all, and suddenly in 4 days, the rain of 2 months came down in 4 days. And we had massive damage here in Mount Abu, the roads, the bridges, everything got disrupted, and people lost their life and their property because of that heavy flooding. So either we create deserts or we create little islands. You see, this is Mount Abu, just looking out of the sea. And there was a scientist in Sweden, Mr. Rockström. He gave an interview. He's a director of the Resilience Center in Sweden. And he said, if the temperature rise goes on like this, we have to consider a seawater level rise of more than 10 meters within the next 100 years. Just imagine 50% of the world population lives within 50 kilometers of the ocean. And if the seawater level rises by 50 centimeters, by half a meter, cities like Bombay, Sydney, Melbourne, New York, Boston, London, Rotterdam, they have to be evacuated because we cannot deal more than 1 meter. We cannot build up the dams that much, it's too costly. So just imagine about the consequences of this climate change. They're quite serious. And one other information, already about 70% of the world reefs, they are seriously damaged. And if the temperature rise goes more, the damage will increase, and the reefs are the kindergarten for all our marine life. And everything is connected to that. So all the ecosystems are very delicate, and sudden change in temperature or increase in temperature is not easy taken by them. And quite often in the ecosystems you find what is called a tipping point when a system collapses. And that's actually where they fear a lot, that we soon reach such kind of tipping points. So climate change is a big issue and is threatening us. And it's part of the change we're facing in the world. And sometimes it's frightening us. And we have worries about the future, quite understandable, because we're heading not really in a really good direction. So, and one of the main reasons for all these problems we're facing is that our ecological footprint is negative. It means we're using more resources than actually Mother Earth can provide us. At the moment, we're using the resources of 1.6 planets Earth. It means we're using, an average, 1.6 times the fresh water, 1.6 times the water, the air, 1.6 times the wood, and so on. And we're not replenishing them. And that's what's called a non-sustainable lifestyle. And that's what we are all doing, and we're all part of that somehow, because we are consumers. And we all want our little luxuries, and we want our lifestyle. So we're all part of that, because we're used to that, and we're conditioned to be such consumers and buy quite a lot of stuff. And you see, actually, we should come back to consume resources of one planet Earth, but that would mean a reduction of economic growth. And as you know, the paradigm we all worship at the moment is economic growth. Because economic growth means jobs. And economic growth means wealth to everybody. And it means profit. So everybody wants economic growth. And this is a bit of a dilemma because we have only one planet. Of course, Hollywood tells us many stories how we build spaceships and go to outer galaxies and then, have a bright future and find resources and all this. But it's unfortunately not going to happen. It's just a Hollywood movie. This is a myth. Energetically, it will be not possible. So, we have to come back to one planet Earth. India is using at the moment the resources of 2 Indias. So here in India the situation is even worse because we're 1.3 billion people in India and have a relatively small land mass. So we're using a lot of resources in India already. So our planet is under squeeze. This is a slide from the Resilience Institute in Stockholm, which I've taken. And we have a dilemma of human growth, we have a climate dilemma, we have a pressure on ecosystem, and we have a surprise dilemma, which can be an asteroid, or which can be an outbreak of disease, whatever, we don't yet know. Or maybe God intervenes and says something, So that's the surprise dilemma. So the planet is really in trouble. And that's quite worrisome. So, and on the other side, there would be beautiful alternatives. Here you can see that the sun provides 1,000 times more energy than actually what is our demand, our global demand. You can see here, this is the world energy requirement, and this is the solar radiation coming to planet Earth. So we get approximately 1,000 times more energy by sun than actually what we need. It's quite baffling. And why we're not using it? The big interesting question. So we're fighting for coal, oil, gas, and uranium, and these are all either dangerous or dirty energy carriers. And science tells us in the next 30 years, we should phase out the usage of coal completely. It means we should bring the usage of coal to 0 in the next 30 years. Unfortunately, the predictions are that we're increasing the usage of coal for the next 20 years. This is very difficult, So, humanity is not very smart, and at the same time, there is a relation between poverty, conflict, and environmental degradation. You see, wherever there's an environmental degradation or there is a conflict, people are migrating. And you all know about the refugees in Europe now. It becomes a big problem, and it's quite obviously that there are disconnections between conflicts, environmental degradation, and conflict. And we all have now a very explosive scenario in the Middle East. And we have wars going on for oil, we have wars going on for geostrategical interests, and we have a lot of refugees, and we may have just seen the tip of the iceberg. Who knows about it? All right. So, and at the same time, we in the West, we are big consumers. We all are very much interested in our latest MacBook Air, our Apple iPhone G6, and some latest car, and this and that, and following the fashion trends. And somehow we're conditioned. You see, this lady, she has seen 10,000 advertisements. And these advertisements tell the lady, if you buy things and you buy fashion and you buy new things, you will be happy. So the lady, she buys and buys and buys. And nowadays you buy cloth, you wash them 3 or 4 times and they don't look any more good, because they're made cheaply. And you buy another stuff because it's so cheap. And that's what the industry is doing, and that's what you're told, and that's how you're conditioned. That's how our economy functions. And Mahatma Gandhi said, there is sufficient in the world for man's need, but not for man's greed. So somehow, we're all participating in that, and we're part of it. And if you look at your home, at your wardrobe, and you look the cloth hanging there, who has too much cloth hanging in his wardrobe? I have too much cloth hanging in my wardrobe. Okay. All right. There are some hands not going up. You may be shy, or your translation may be slow, or you really don't have enough cloth, which is very rarely the case. So we all have stuff. We have too much stuff, you know. And nowadays in Germany, when there's, you know, every 6 months there is this collection, you know. The municipality says things which you don't, you can put them outside. You find incredible stuff, what people throw away. Stereo systems, bicycles, whatever you want, you get it. There's too much stuff around and we're consuming more and more and more. So we are in a consumeristic pattern. And that's very deep also in our subconscious, and we believe, and we're part of that, and we believe it's just a good trend. And the problem is, we all do it through credit card. So we have an environmental problem, we have a credit problem, we have a financial problem. Very gloomy and doomy. So, and this you see is the world's debt. This is 2011. Meanwhile, the debt is gone on the next floor. 2015, it has tripled since then, since the financial crisis. And you see this is George Washington. He's completely out of his shoes because the dollar has lost 150% of its value since its introduction. So money loses its value in front of our eyes, and the world is in debt. America has now about 15 trillion US dollar state debt. 15 trillion. Even if they would start paying back, they would need 10,000 years to pay back. So you can understand how difficult the situation is. And if you see history, we had 200 state bankruptcies since the Roman Empire. It means a state becomes bankrupt. He doesn't pay his debt. The problem is now the whole world is one. We have one market, we have 3-4 leading currencies, we have stock markets, everything is interconnected. If China gets a cough, the rest of the world is shaking. That's the situation. So we're in a very, very delicate time, and we have to look for strategies to adapt ourselves towards that. Because just by seeing and being worried, we're not going to make any change. We might get sick, you know, or whatever, because we get unhappy, but that's also no solution for us. And we all came here together to learn to be very, very happy, to be very powerful, to be very peaceful, and to increase our inner resilience. So, therefore, the Brahma Kumaris has set up about 10 years ago an environmental initiative, and we want to create a climate to initiate a change. And we advocate certain values and virtues, and we go to those conferences and we highlight the connection between our consciousness, our awareness, and our attitudes, and our actions, and the situation in the world. And we tell people, change your awareness and your attitudes, and you will have an impact into the world. And 8 years ago, there was a climate conference in Copenhagen, and then all those government people came to us, you know, in nice dress with tie, very formal, and they said, what are you yogis doing here? You white-dressed yogis. They told us, we only need money, we need technology, and we need a strategy, and we'll fix the problem. No problem. Now, after 8 or 9 years, the same people come to us and they say, oh, please, teach us meditation, because our approach has failed, and we're completely frustrated. So, you can see how time is changing. So, in your welcome pack, there was also hopefully a brochure about our environmental initiative, and there is a webpage with many good ideas, and our sister Sonia is also here. She's our secretary and manager of the green team, and maybe Valerian is also here, and we can help you and have a discussion if you're interested to learn a little bit more about that. And we advocate that any change has to come from the self. Whatever change I like to see, I have to become the example. I have to walk the talk. And that's quite often, unfortunately, not the case. So we try to inspire people to change their life and their attitude first. Because if I change, I can influence, inspire my family, my community, country, life on earth, and then future generations. So we advocate a green lifestyle, also in our environmental wing, and we advocate the 4 R's. Rethink before you buy something. Reuse things before you throw them away. Reduce your consumption and recycle. These are the 4 R's. And all in your personal life, you can look, where do I use too much of this, where I use too much water, where I use too much of food, throw it away. Where do I travel too much with my car? How can I share facilities? How can I make a difference? And we made a policy, drafted it, and we circulated among all our centers. Brahma Kumaris has 7,500 centers in India and around 800 centers abroad. And we try slowly to make them green. Of course, it takes a bit time, because you have to change the attitude of the people. But you can look in your personal life and see where your behavior can make a difference. And you can do an energy audit, and you can look into energy, water, and into waste. Who is recycling the waste? Anybody is doing that already? Okay. All right. And are you looking into your water consumption? Okay. See, slowly we're all wakening up and we change our behavior. But it has to go much further. Good. So we also highlight the connection between ethics and a profound future development. We always say that ethics and moral principles, they have to come back into business and they have to come back into policy. At the moment in business, it's all about money and profit. It's not about producing good products, long-lasting for the community. It's about making in the shortest possible time, the maximum of money. So if you bring ethics into business, this will change. People will produce for the community. And we also want to bring ethics back in politics, that politicians take such decisions not to be re-elected after 4 years, but which are really beneficial for the future of mankind. So we very much talk about values and ethics also in all our programs and presentations we have within the environmental initiative of the Brahma Kumaris. So now I talk a little bit what we're doing at the Brahma Kumaris and at our headquarters. You are here in the Gyan Sarovar complex, and 3 kilometers from here in Mount Abu we have the Madhuban complex, which I think you will visit tomorrow. That's the old headquarters. And we have around 800,000 regular students or followers, you can say, who practice Raja Yoga meditation. And we're also closely connected to the United Nations. And our headquarters, spiritual headquarters, is in Mount Abu, in Pandav Bhavan. And this is an extension which was built in 1993. 94 we built this place. So the Brahma Kumaris and its daughter organization, the World Renewal Spiritual Trust, we carry out research projects since the last 20 years in the area of renewable energies. We have seen there's a lot of potential here in India for solar energy, for wind energy, for biomass and all these things. And about 20 years ago we thought, why we not combine our spiritual lifestyle with renewable energies, and a fusion of both try to create that inspiration and that momentum for a positive future development. So we do a lot of research in photovoltaic, steam, water recycling, hot water, and so on and so on. And we are meanwhile a recognized solar research center by the government of India. And this is how Gyan Sarovar looked like when we got it. This is the little cute house behind, where's the golden dome, where's the little fountain. And this was Gyan Sarovar when we got it, 1993. And this little house was the first building, and then we started planting it and protecting it from the goats and from the cows. And now it looks like that. It's the same photo from the same place. So you can see the transformation of the place. The birds come back, the insect come back, wildlife come back, cool climate come back, air is filtered. So, and a small step at your doorstep, you can make a difference by planting trees, and you can make a change, a positive change. And you can inspire people also. So that's what we did with Gyan Sarovar when we got it. In 1997, we have set up a first solar steam cooking system in our kitchen here. And if you go after your meals once on the rooftop, you might see on top those dishes. So what happens is those dishes, they concentrate the sunlight, and we focus on the receiver. In the receiver is water, and we're getting steam. And the steam we send to our kitchen, and the food which you are eating in Gyan Sarovar is partly cooked by sun energy. That's a good news. So, and this was a research project which we carried out in 1997. And the good news is the system is still working like a clockwork, which is something exceptional. You know, it's like almost 20 years old, and the system's still running. So if you have time, after breakfast or after lunch, dining hall, you just go on the rooftop, you will see the system. There's our brother Suresh, and he will explain you about that system. He's very happy to explain you the connection between solar power and soul power. So then in 1999, we set up a similar system, but much bigger in our Shantivan complex. And Shantivan complex is down in Abu Road, it's about 27 kilometers from here. And when you leave, or you might have come, you might have seen it. There we can accommodate 20,000 people. And this was funded by us, and we produce 3.5 tons of steam, and we cook 35,000 meals every day by solar energy. This is one of the world's largest solar cooking systems. And it's also fully operational since 1999. And you see here an aerial shot, and you see here the solar cooker on rooftop. And we have also photovoltaic here, and we produce also solar electricity. So here you can see a close-up picture how those dishes are functioning. So those dishes are following the sun, and the sunlight is always focused on the receiver. Inside the receiver is water, and the water is boiling, and we have steam. And the steam we send into the kitchen. And you can see all the work, the welding, the design, the installation was done by our own team. We did insulation, mass fabrication. This is our kitchen, and here comes the steam, and we inject the steam into the cooking vessels, and we cook lentils, rice, dal, and vegetables. We cannot fry. That would mean a too high temperature. And we cook for all these people. This is the main gathering of the Brahma Kumaris in Shantivan, in our main hall. So you can imagine how important it is to have a stable supply to our people and have always steam available. So, and here you can see our solar steam cooking system, which we set up in Global Hospital. I think tomorrow you're going to the Global Hospital, so if you go around the hospital at backside, you can see that system. We increased the dish size, and we produce 1,000 kilograms steam, and the system also works very, very, very regular and very perfect. And we also send steam to sterilization, laundry, and to the kitchen. Can somebody check that noise there? Some music is going on, some testing. All right, and you can see we did a lot of insulation here, and it's always our aim to reduce those losses. And this is our system in our Panda Bhavan, which you're going to visit in the next days. And we also promote the solar cooking box. And the solar cooking box is very simple and very easy. You will also get it in your country. If you have a good amount of sunshine, you can get that cooking box, and you just put it in the sunlight, put your meal inside, and your food gets cooked within 3 to 4 hours. It's a very easy method, and the cost of such a box is maybe $50, $80, you know? And you just Google in your country, solar cooking box, and you will find it. Here in India, we have around 10 manufacturers, and we always have some 50 pieces at hand, and then sort of distributing them at a non-profit base. So we also have a solar lantern. You might know that in India, we have 60,000 villages without electricity. 60,000 villages without electricity. So when there is darkness, when there is no sun, there's darkness in the village. So what we do is we promote this solar lantern, which has a small solar plate, a lantern with a small battery. And just last summer, we distributed 8,000 lanterns to all our centers. And also to the foreign centers to inspire our people to make use of them. And you know what happened? In this summer when we had this torrential rain, the power in Mount Abu failed for 10 days in a row. So we started the generator in the morning and the evening for 2 hours to save diesel because we were not sure how long the power cut is going to take place. And so our brothers and sisters, they all used the lanterns and they were very happy. So you can imagine how important also such small gadgets can be in order to sort of help people in a practical way and inspire them to go further. All right, this is a picture which is taken backside of this hall on the rock behind the Harmony House. We have a lot of photovoltaic installation here in the campus. We have around 150 kilowatt of photovoltaic electricity here. And we produce this electricity, send it to a battery, store it. And you might have seen that we have everywhere small extra lights, and sometimes the main light goes off and then the little bulbs go on. This is our emergency light. And in Gyan Sarovar we have 300 emergency lamps. Our meditation rooms, they run on solar. Most of the computers, they run on solar. And we have our own connections everywhere and supply to quite a lot of departments and areas. We supply solar power. So for example, in the kitchen, we also supply solar power to some pumps, and also water pumping we're doing to some extent with solar power. Also street light, some extent we're using solar power for that. So that is produced by those cells. They're quite reliable, very cheap, and the price has collapsed by 70% in the last 4 years. So these solar plates are almost at par from price relation to conventional power. There is actually no reason not to use them. And there's maybe in the next years a big change is gradually going to happen, that all these solar plates will become more and more mandatory and into usage. So this is our Om Shanti Retreat Center, which is near New Delhi. It's about 50 kilometers outside of New Delhi. And in this place, we are having installed 400 kilowatt of photovoltaic, plus a solar steam cooking system. And this place is almost independent. So therefore, we got some subsidy from the government of India. We are working very closely in the last 20 years with the German government, with the Indian government, and we do a lot of research projects, and sometimes we're able to get some funding, some help, some assistance to install those kind of projects. So this place is almost independent from the outside grid. And they have 40% power cuts in Haryana. So you can understand 40% of the time the power is cut. So you can see we do installation, welding, foundation work, installation of solar plates. We do all with our own team. And we have 8,000 of these batteries, and we maintain also these batteries ourselves. All the systems you are seeing, they are worth millions of dollars. And we have sort of accumulated them over years, doing one project, doing the next project, always look a little bit into funding, which is rather very difficult. You know, it's not easy to get the funds together, but somehow with the blessing of the institution, the seniors, and good wishes of everybody, we were able to execute many of these projects. Now I would like to show you the latest project we're doing. This project is called India One, and it's a 1 megawatt solar thermal power station which we're executing at the moment in Shantivan in Abu Road. And this is a $15 million project. And we get substantial funding from the German government, from the German Ministry for Environment and Nature Conservation. And we get also substantial funding from the Indian Ministry of Renewable Energies. India has a ministry only for solar energy. It's quite unique in India also. And you can see we get the funding, and we work with a very famous research institute in Germany together. And this is a research project which produces solar power, and it has storage. We can store the energy overnight. The storage of the solar power is the critical point at the moment. All all around the world, all the research institutes, all the governments, all the companies, they're working on storage. How to store energy cheap and efficient. So Brahma Kumars also works in that field, and we're quite good in that, despite we're doing it as a side job, you know. So you see, we had to build for this a very big dish, because with our small dishes, we were not able to have enough power. And this is a 60 square meter dish, and it consists out of 600 parts, and it's our own in-house development. You see the happy three inventors, and we concentrate the sunlight into this receiver, and this receiver is made out of 3 tons of cast iron, and we heat up that cast iron to 500 degrees. And you see here we do a focus test, and the maximum temperature we can achieve in the focus is 1600 centigrades. If you have this temperature, metal will start melting. So that's a very bad temperature. So we already melted so many things with that solar dish, you know, when we were not paying attention. We melted water tanks and other metal structures. So we're very careful what we're putting in front of that dish. So now we limit the temperature to 500 degrees, and we store the energy in this receiver, which is made out of 3 tons of cast iron. We heat it up to 500 degrees, and it's insulated, and we can store the heat overnight. And whenever we want steam, we pump water through that receiver. And the heat of the receiver goes into the water, produces steam, and the steam goes to a turbine. So, and you can see here we have our own little tracking computers, all in-house development. We have our own structural engineering department. We have our own computer programming department, and everything will be digitally. We can control it remotely. And you see this is our Shantivan campus. Here's the solar land, and this is the layout of the field. And this is the latest picture of the project. I have a little film, but it will take 4 minutes. Should I show it to you? I show it to you. Come on. So I show a little film. Let me see if I can do that. Okay. Here we are. And so this is about our project. The name is India One. The World Renewal Spiritual Trust is a daughter organization of the Brahma Kumars and works very closely together with us. So we're coming from outer space, flying all the way to Mount Abu. There's our Shantivan campus. Here's the Shantivan campus. And here we are in Mount Abu. And you see we have to build 770 dishes. And we produce electricity for 24 hours. The good news is we have installed all 770 dishes 3 months ago. And now we have to install 770 receivers. We have to install 3,000 little motors, run 20 kilometers of cable, 10 kilometers of pipe, and we hope by March, April 2016 we will go operational. You can see it's a very, very big project. This is the turbine from Siemens. It's already installed. And we had to set up our own workshop. And we employ up to 200 people at the workshop. We train them. We make quality control. We educate them. We have plasma cutting. And each and every part is manufactured and produced by our own team on site. So then we put all the mirrors on top with a special glue, which we have tested in a climate chamber for 2 years. A lot of work is going into that. We're working since the last 5 years on the project. We also have a photovoltaic system there. And we planted more than 3,000 trees. Our team and it's a technology which is developed also for India, and we hope to replicate it. And we're a team of 40 brothers from the Brahma Kumars, and we're all volunteers on the project. That's our turbine house, and we expect 25 years lifespan. This is old, this 6 months more. You know how it is. You have a project and then so many things may not go as per plan. All right, we are also on Facebook and we have a web page, and you're welcome to have a look to our project. So that was the little film which has given you an idea what we're doing. Okay. No, I don't want this. I want that. So, now you have seen the world is in trouble. Serious trouble. The planet is actually sick. And the people also not behave very nice, if we're frank. We're all buying too much. Our consciousness and awareness is somewhere else, you know. And we're more concerned with our little lives, and sometimes we forget the big picture and see that humanity is in a crisis. And we need a shift of our activity, a shift of our actions, a shift in technology, and a shift how we live together and how we see each other, a change in consciousness and awareness. So the big question is how to create a positive vision for the future and become or be a change maker. Because seeing all the problems in the world, it's not easy to have a positive vision. I know a lot of people which are pretty much depressed or frustrated. They sort of retreat into their small private life and think, I do a little bit here and I don't look to the news too much, because the news are not very positive. And we all know that. Luckily, we're here together in Mount Abu, which is an island of peace and tranquility. But we all go out after some time and we go back to our countries and to our personal lives. And then we see the news, we hear what's going on. And the question is, how do we position ourselves? How we deal from the inside with all these problems? How we strengthen our inner resilience with environmental degradation, but also with tension, with war situation, with refugee situations, and how I can become a change maker, how I can become active in that process. So for that now I sort of come to the third part of the presentation. It's about how our consciousness and our awareness plays a major role. We all know if I want to build a new house, first I have the idea of that house. I have a vision. So first the idea is created in my mind. I'm aware. In my consciousness I have this inspiration. I want to build a new house like I'm an architect. Then I design the house. And then I build the house. And then it becomes reality and it's practically there. And then I have to live with the house and the implications. So what is very, very important that we understand the mechanism, how the world is formed by our actions. First, I'm conscious and aware. That creates my visions and my ideas. And my vision and ideas, they create the actions and the reactions. That's actually what's happening. Climate change is a reaction based on wrong actions, based on a wrong vision, based on wrong ideas, based on a wrong consciousness and awareness. So this action and reaction, they create the world, and the world is in trouble. So if we want to change the world, we have to change consciousness and awareness. And here in the Brahma Kumaris, we consider ourselves to be experts in the field. I'm now 30 years with the Brahma Kumaris and practice Raja Yoga meditation. And I can proudly say I changed myself. I became more peaceful, more relaxed. Despite my mother and my brother says, I will never change, but I became a different person. So how to bring a change? Because that's the big issue. Because sometimes we understand something that we want to change. We understand it intellectually, but we're not able to bring it into action in our emotions and feelings. And we still follow the old pattern. So here it's quite interesting because in the last years, neuroscience has mapped the brain and how the brain is actually functioning. And how and why we take certain decisions and where they do come from. So I would like to share with you a little bit how the brain functions. And we have these two big antagonists there in the brain. One is the consciousness, that's the I. And I, the consciousness, I'm talking to you at the moment, and you are listening consciously to me what I'm saying. And the consciousness sits in the front cortex here. And it sits in the outer, very, very outer thin shell of the brain. But we have something called the subconscious. And the subconscious is very powerful. Very, very, very powerful. And science has found out in the last 10 years to what extent and how powerful actually is our subconscious. And they found out that more than 97% of all decisions we're taking in our life are based on our subconsciousness. It's quite interesting because we think it's our consciousness who takes the decision. No, it's the subconscious. I give you a very, very simple example and you all will understand how it functions. You meet a person for the first time. And what you do is you look at the face of the person and within 1/10 of a second, you analyze 40 parameters of the face of the person. You look the ears, the nose, the chin, the forehead, the eyes, the shape, the hair or less hair, whatever. And you analyze that picture and then you take that picture and in the next 1/10 of a second, you compare that picture with your database. And your database, your storage is in your subconscious. Any face you have seen in your life, including the emotions connected to that face, are stored in your subconsciousness. And then, within the next 1/10 of a second, comes the message back from the subconscious, relax, that face is similar to your mom, you can trust him. And you know what happens? The next 1/10 of a second, before you take in a breath, you're flooded with positive chemicals like dopamine and so on, and you relax. And you say, oh, hello, mama. It's not that bad, but it's almost like that. And you think this was your own conscious decision that you liked that person. But the decision was taken by your subconsciousness. And you're not aware of that. Because there's something very strange going on. The subconscious is so smart, it brings that idea up, it comes to your front cortex, to your consciousness, and you think that was your decision based on that face. But it's actually based on previous experiences you have taken and recorded in your subconscious. It means 97% of our decisions we take day-to-day life are based on our previous recording. We are following an old program which is in our subconscious. And the reason is it's much more economic and efficient for our brain to work in that fashion. If you activate and you really take the decision, you would take a long time to think, do I like this person? Do I not like this person? What should I do? And it would be too much for you. So you always go to your subconscious. Subconscious says, like that, you like this person, he looks similar to your mother. This person might want to rob your money, and loot you, but you trust him. This happens in food, cloth, relations, work, peace and war, technology, negotiations, everywhere. This principle is going to happen. That's how advertisement, by the way, is making use of that mechanism. And that's known since the last 10, 15 years. They found it out. They mapped thousands of people, put them in the MRI, in the CT scan, gave them certain works to do, made them happy, made them angry, whatever, and they found out how our brain is functioning. So what we're doing is not a conscious decision, it is a subconscious decision which we mostly take, which governs our life, and this is a program which is based on the previous experiences, because it's much easier for us and much safer for us. And this now explains why it becomes sometimes so difficult. Because the good news is the subconscious all the time talks to the conscious and tells him what to do. But the conscious cannot influence the subconsciousness. It's a one-way communication. Even if you read a book, How Bad is Cigarette Smoking? And you say, my God, it causes cancer. Today was an article in the German newspaper Der Spiegel that the WHO declared red meat cancerous. So it's officially out, red meat, sausages and all this kind of things, they create cancer. It's officially declared by the WHO. So you might read that and you think, my God, I should not eat anymore. I should become a vegetarian. But you see after some time you see that nice sausage and you want to eat it because your subconscious doesn't react to that information which has gone to your front cortex, to your consciousness. That's why it is so difficult to change fundamentally. And this is why it is so difficult to steer the world in the positive direction, because all the fears, all the worries, all the negative impressions, all the traumata which we have experienced since childhood, since pregnancy, they're all recorded in us. And we yogis, we know that we not only lived this life, we lived many lives. You had the lecture of the soul. So whatever you experience is recorded. It is with you. You store it in your energy field. It's stored in your subconscious and it influences you all the time and it guides you through your life. This mechanism is very powerful. It's very difficult to change it. Psychologists, they always come to that barrier where they can't treat the patient anymore. Now we have a big problem in our consciousness and our subconsciousness. We all face an information overload. Who is a bit overloaded with information? I'm overloaded. I get too many emails. Okay, most of you are a bit overloaded. It's called a burnout. It becomes a disease nowadays, I heard. No? Sonja in Koppen, you said in Denmark, so many people, they become sick because of burnout, because of information overload. We have to absorb 10,000 times more information than a person in the medieval times. But the brain is the same. So now we get so many information, our filter is overloaded. We just say, we try to shut off. So our subconscious is overloaded, our consciousness is overloaded, and we're following an old program which has been created long time ago, based on our experience, which we are recording and memorizing in our subconscious. And this is why it makes so difficult for a change. Now in psychology they found out that it is very difficult, nearly impossible, to override that old program. They tried it with people with schizophrenia or people who have wrong behavior patterns and all this. And over 10 years they analyzed the people, and they analyzed also different treatment methods, how people can change, how they can become better, and how they can overcome negative trends within them. And they always came to that barrier where the subconscious does not show the flexibility. And it's almost impossible. It looks almost like these informations and behaviors are hardwired into the subconscious memory, like chips, like ROMs. Like ROMs, I think, ROMs. It's hardwired. So they came to a barrier, and they really didn't know how to go further. That's why psychological treatments, they give an effect in the beginning, but quite often after some time you have a fallback, you have a flashback. Now they found out something very, very, very interesting. We talk all here about yoga or meditation. Yoga is an old Sanskrit word and means connection with the supreme or the divine for self-enlightenment. Now that's something a bit wishy-washy, and you know, our science does not really like religion or belief systems very much, because they say that is not scientific. This had not been published in a review paper, so we don't believe it. Huh? Okay. So what we did is, in the last 10 years, tons of experiments have been carried out in these areas. And they took yogis, and they took monks, and they put them in the MRI and in the CT scan. They measured their brain activity, and so on and so on. And they found out something very, very fundamental, very surprising, and very thrilling. It's actually magic, and they don't know why, and they don't know yet how it happens. They found out if you meditate, it increases your social competence. Okay, you become a better person, you're a bit more relaxed, a bit more friendly with others, a bit more peaceful, understandable, not a big deal. Huh? We all can do that. They found out that it deepens relaxation and improves your health. This is quite well known since many years. If you practice meditation, a positive effect on your health. For example, it improves your white blood count. But the third thing what they found out, and that's really revolutionary, they found out it increases the brain cells and its activity. You know, when you become older, it's called the neuroplasticity of your brain usually decreases. You're less and less able to take flexible decisions, and your brain becomes more and more rigid in your thinking, and you just follow old patterns and you don't want to change. And with age that increases. So it's very difficult to change old habits, to become rid of peacelessness and transform it into peace, to become rid of anger and change it into love, because it's hardwired into our system. But what they found out, if you practice meditation, you substantially increase the count of gray brain cells, and you're able to override the old program. And this is something very, very fundamental, because they don't know yet how it happens, but they found out it works. And they measured it. It's all published in review papers in the last 10 years. And most of the universities around the globe, most of the hospitals around the globe, most of the research facilities, they now have a department which works exclusively on this kind of topics and research. How meditation and yoga, what is the effect and how it really works. And the beautiful news they have confirmed is you will be able to change yourself from the deep within. And you're able to become from the deep inside a peaceful person and a very relaxed person and a very happy person. And you're able to deal with your worries. You're able to deal with your childhood fears. You're able to deal with your mares and change them into light mares, into happiness. Understand? And that's what the world is suffering at the moment. It suffers collectively from too many people's nightmares. Too many worries, too much fear, impurity also. And meditation is able to reverse this project, this process. And this is the fundamental news which I would like to share with you. And this is actually what we're all learning here collectively, and that's why you came here, because through the meditation, after some time, your activity in your brain changes, you get more gray brain cells, the neuroplasticity is increasing, and you create totally new neuronal connections. These alien words. So that's a wonder, because you're able to change your program, the program which all the time influences you. And in Brahma Kumaris we have something called tapasya, that means deep and very powerful meditation. And that's when I personally quite often feel how that peace comes, and that peace stays with me. It's like a cloud around me. Nothing disturbs me. It's very wonderful. It's scientifically proven now. So you learn here meditation after a scientifically proven method. And you're able to override your old program, increase your gray brain cells, and become alert and fresh. And change old habits you always wanted to get rid of them. I'm sure you all know about the habits you want to get rid of them. Everybody knows about those little areas you want to change. And when you meditate, you're able to do so. All right, so this is a very, very important point. And that's how through yoga you actually change your behavior, your consciousness and awareness. Then you change your vision. Then you change your action. And then you change the world, because you change your action. So that's a very powerful path. And if we all become yogis, within no time we're going to change the world and make it heaven on earth. So, now, one effect of yoga which is quite clear, I've described it. You meditate, you change your awareness, you change the program, you change your actions. You become a good guy, or a good soul, a positive soul. But there is another effect which is also being found out by science in the last years. That's quantum physics, And what they found out, the consciousness of the observer influences the scientific result. There's a very famous experiment. It's the experiment with the light beam. And they observe the light beam, and if you observe it, it's a particle. And if you don't look at it, it becomes a wave. And then you look back, it's again a particle. You look away, it's a wave. Then again you look, it's a particle. So what is it? And this tells us the consciousness, the awareness of the observer is connected to the physical reality. This is what these experiments tell us. And Albert Einstein says, have this imagination because it's more powerful than knowledge. So this is now the science of the heart. This is the science of your vision. This is the science of your powerful thoughts. Have this power of imagination because it's more powerful than knowledge. The knowledge of the front cortex, which sits here. It's the knowledge of your heart, your feelings, emotions, and your thoughts, which you send all the time. And in the last 30, 40, in the last 50 years, many of the universities around the world have done hundreds of experiments where they measured and have proven the connection between consciousness and the physical reality out there. I, as the observer, I'm able to influence directly decisions in the physical reality. And we yogis, we go a step further and we say, I, the consciousness, I'm talking all the time to the world. And the world talks all the time to me back. Now the issue is, in India we have a deity. He's the destroyer, he's the creator, and he's the sustainer. So we all are at the moment in the mode of sustaining, because we follow our subconscious program, which has been created in the past. So we all sustain the past. We sustain the worries of the past. We sustain the traumata of the past. We sustain the fears of the past, and we're not touching it because we're scared. If we now practice powerful meditation, we're able to change that. We bring in light in the whole process. And then we change the vibrational level. We're talking to this world outside. And this world is a reflection of my consciousness and awareness. And this is a very, very powerful point. And if you are aware that you talk all the time to matter, you talk all the time to your friends, to your soul friends, and we're energetically all the time connected, you start looking into your thoughts. You know, and they made the count about thoughts. And I think you had some experiment here in the seminar about thoughts. How are your thoughts? Are they positive, are they neutral, or are they negative? And many people are 45, they made a count, 45% of our thoughts we're worried, we are thinking about the past, what happened there. 50% of our thoughts we're worried about the future, you know. Like when you guys go here next week, you have to go back to your job, and you have to pay your bill, and the car needs a repair, and the hot water geyser is not working properly, and you have to go to the supermarket and check that you get food and all this. So all the times we're thinking on the future, and we're creating our future by that thought process, because all the time we project thought energy into this realm. And these thoughts, they have an effect, as we know from quantum physics. So all the time we sustain. And we're not able to destroy old habits, and we're not able really to create new, because we're not touching our old programming in our subconsciousness, because we're scared and we don't know how to do it. So these experiments, they have shown, hundreds of them, that we talk all the time to matter, we're able to influence it, and matter has a feedback loop also on us. So when we now wake up through the process of meditation, we become very, very powerful. And we become change makers. We become creators. And this is something very, very special. So yoga and your thoughts are the key to transform the world. And this is the message of hope, which you take from here, that you can become a creator of your own personal life and future, but you can also help others through your example, and you can help the world. Mahatma Gandhi said, always aim at complete harmony of thought, word and deed. All aim at purifying your thoughts, and all will be well. A very wise gentleman. So, what should we do? Think positive on yourself, think positive on others, and think positive on the world. The power of positive thoughts is incredible. Of course, it's the most difficult to think positive about us. In the morning when we get up, it's a Monday morning, we think, oh my God, I have no milk and I don't like to drink the coffee black. What a bad day. And I have to go to my work, and I don't like all these faces. Ugh. If you wake up like this and you have this kind of thoughts, you know, the day is already done. Because you create a negative energy field around you. Your face will become like this, your white blood count will drop, you will feel energyless, bad and miserable, you know. So it's not a good start. That's why here in Raja Yoga we learn every morning to get up early and bless ourselves. I'm a positive being of light, I'm God's child, I'm pure, I'm loveful, I'm happy, and I radiate that with all my friends. So we think positive about ourselves. Then Next stage is, once I master that, I'm now 30 years at stage 1, think positive about myself all the time. But I heard other people will be faster. So think positive on yourself. I'm kidding, I make a joke. Think positive on others, bless them. And it is said when you smile, after some time, other people also start smiling. You made that experience? When you start smiling, after some time, you come to work, you say, happy, how are you, golden good morning. And people say, they start smiling. They say, oh, why is that person so happy to me? And after some time, they also become happy. So become happy, chappies. And influence others in that way. Think positive on others and then think positive on the world. And you will become a change maker. And once you're into that mode, once you're into that process, it becomes easy after some time because you change your old programming. You override your old fears, your old worries. So I have yoga, then I have realization, who am I? I'm a pure being of light and I'm positive in my original form. And then I receive power. And then through the power I achieve transformation. And you see the yogi sitting in the middle in the light, and all the powers are around him. And he becomes the master of the self, and becomes a friend to others, a helper to others. So, how to change the world and become a change maker? Change of consciousness, unity and values, peace. And we have seen the technology is already there. Technology, money, strategy is not our problem. It's that we all are inspired and that we all build that critical mass of positive, smiling people and tip the scale in our direction and make this unhappy, degraded world into a happy and prosperous world. In Christianity, they call it paradise. And in Indian mythology, it's called Satyuga. The Greek, they called it the Golden Age. So I invite you all to join this movement to create that positivity in with yourself. Increase your gray brain matter, override your old program, and become your true self. It's very easy. Give light and receive light. So I thank you very much for your time. And here are our different web pages. And at the front, I have kept some of our solar brochures. Oh, this was that cable. I've kept some of our solar brochures. And there are 100. So please feel free to take some after the program. And I hope you feel inspired. And I hope you understand a bit more the connection between climate change, technology, and consciousness. Thank you very much, and Om Shanti.